Fred and I are walking side by side in beautiful Treptower Park in Berlin. He's dragging a little rolling suitcase, and he's just flown all the way from Montreal spontaneously to visit me. He gazes over with his piercing eyes, and he asks, "Who gave you all those hickeys?" At this point, I've been in Berlin for about 8 months. I originally left Montreal with a 1-year working holiday visa due to my general lack of professional and romantic prospects. Of course, shortly before leaving, I meet Fred. We're both huddling together under the same tree during a thunderstorm, and he asks for my number. I am soon obsessed. I want to see him all the time. I think he's the one. Maybe I don't need to go to Germany after all. But he insists. No, I don't want to get in the way. I don't want to interfere. I don't want to bother you. You go to Germany. Now, Berlin in November is depressing enough on its own, but when you're friendless and heartbroken, it's so much worse. Within a few months, though, I managed to turn things around for myself. I'm now working as a server for a catering company, and it's great because I get to practice my German every day, I meet lots of cool people, and I discover all these underground venues all around the city. One night, I'm working a giant wedding, and I notice the server at the next table. He has the most soulful eyes I have ever seen. So I make an excuse to go talk to him. His name is Sammy. From that point on, every time I get a shift, I check the call sheet to see if he's on it. Sammy is part of a very large contingent of Syrian refugees who have recently settled in Berlin. Whenever we work together, one of us finds a reason to cross the room to talk to the other. By the time the spring arrives in Berlin, we get scheduled for a whole week together at an air show. And it's the best. I mean, we gaze over at each other, we bring each other snacks, we brush up against each other. It's awesome. On the last day of the air show, we take the train back to the city together, and just before my stop, he says, "Would you like to go for a walk sometime?" So our first date, we sit in the park on a bench looking at a beautiful lake. And he's packed sandwiches and peanuts and a thermos full of tea. We talk about our childhoods, about religion, about life. At the end of the date, I lean in to kiss him. Startled, he pushes me away. I try not to take it personally. And soon enough, we are inseparable. Our relationship is passionate, and as passionate relationships often are, it's also tumultuous. We each think the other is the most beautiful person in the world, but we also come from very different parts of the world, and that causes confusion and frustration and misunderstandings. For me, love rhymes with freedom and trust and individuality. For him, freedom rhymes with devotion, obligation, and sacrifice. We decide to take a break. And in that break, Fred appears in the form of a text message. "I heard Berlin's a great city to visit." It is. "When are you coming home again?" "October." A few more texts. Then he asks, "What are you doing the week of the 20th? So I think, gosh, I have no idea what I'm doing the week of October 20th. It seems like a lifetime away. So I just reply, "Why do you ask?" Oh, never mind. I don't want to interfere. I don't want to bother you." "Fred, has it ever occurred to you that maybe I want to be bothered?" Silence. The next day, I get a text saying, "I've bought my tickets. I'm arriving in Berlin tomorrow." Oh boy. Okay. I immediately alert Sammy, who calls an emergency meeting in the park. When I find him there, he's wearing this green t-shirt that brings out his eyes. His skin is glowing. He's even more beautiful than I remembered. We talk about our expectations, our requirements, our desires, our needs, our future. Day turns into evening, and that evening is actually the annual party of the catering firm where we work. And we decide to show up hand in hand for the first time as a couple. All our coworkers cheer and tease us. They are so happy to see that we're together. We gaze into each other's eyes and hold each other tight, and he comes home with me. The next morning, I wake up covered in hickeys and filled with dread. Fred has landed at the airport, and I was supposed to be meeting him there. Before I head out the door, Sammy tells me he will give me 1 week where he will not interfere, he will not bother me, so that I can make a decision about who I want to be with. When I meet Fred, it is awkward and strange, but I try to push through it because he's here. That night, we meet on beautiful Museum Island. It's the most scenic part of Berlin. An island of historic buildings wrapped in stone arcades. There's a live band playing. Someone's passing out champagne. Fred asks me to dance in the moonlight. It's a perfect scene. It's what I've always wanted. When I get home and plug in my phone, I see I have a dozen missed texts from Sammy, panicking. He says, it's gotten so cold, and I just worry you weren't dressed warmly enough. The next day, I take Fred sightseeing. We end the day looking at the Reichstag illuminated by night, and we sit on a little bench, and I finally ask him, so what made you decide to come to Berlin? Well, you invited me. Oh, no, I don't think I did. I asked you what you were doing the week of the 20th. It's the week of the 20th. Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the week of October 20th when I go home to Montreal. The blood drains from his face. He jumps up, mortified. We have an awkward, bitter fight, and he storms off into the night in a city he doesn't know. I don't go after him, and he doesn't go after me. All I can think about is when I'm going to see Sammy again. Sammy and I are now on a countdown to the end of my stay. On the day of my departure, he films my entire morning routine. But then, thinking he's lost the footage, he collapses to the ground. At the airport, I cross the security line and turn, and we look at each other across the newly formed divide. Back in Montreal, with the distance, our incompatibilities become even more obvious. And soon enough, I get a package in the mail with all the mementos he kept from our relationship. Ticket stubs, my teddy bear, even my bicycle lock. He asks me never to contact him again. I do try to see Fred again, but as soon as he kisses me, I just burst into tears. Sammy's married now. I saw a reel on Instagram. His wife is as beautiful as he is and very young. But it's okay. He's found his person, and I won't bother them. I won't interfere. Thank you.